Hello, everyone, and welcome to the May edition of Wild Wednesday webinars. Wild Wednesday webinars are sponsored by Apothecary Products. They're a Michigan manufacturer with a Minnesota headquarters, so they've really got District 3 covered well. They've been providing for over 30 years a diverse line of lanyards, pillboxes, and earplugs. We really appreciate the sponsorship of Apothecary Products, which makes this webinar series possible. Everyone, there is a chat box on the left-hand side of your screen. If anytime during Joe's presentation you'd like to ask a question, feel free to type it in. If he doesn't see it, you'll hear me jump in and interrupt him very obnoxiously. Also, if you are working in your CAS or MES Plus, this presentation has been approved by PPAI for 1 CAS credit. You can get that by emailing your PIN number to me, Paul at MIPA.org, or at the end of the presentation you'll be brought to a survey box which will also allow you to just enter your PIN number, and I can submit that for credit. If you don't know your educational PIN number, ask your local regional executive director and they can get that for you. As I mentioned, these are produced by Michigan Promotional Professionals Association and distributed throughout District 3, which includes UMAP, PPAW, PPA Chicago, TISPA, and OPA. Today I'm really excited to introduce Joe Durand from LARLU. Joe and I have gone back a long time. We served together on the PPAI Board of Directors. Joe's a longtime industry professional with a lot of experience in the educational market, and he's going to share that knowledge with you today. So with no further ado, Joe, take it away.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Paul, and thank you, each of you, for agreeing to spend some time with us today to learn about the education market. My title of the presentation, 10 Points for the Education Market, it took some time to really think about the market and kind of boil it down to the top 10 areas that I felt really kind of give you the knowledge about the industry if you're looking to grow in this education market, as well as personal experiences for products and ideas that I have been involved in through the years. Wanted to point out, too, that while I've been in the industry 15 years with LARLU, we do have 3 children that are all in college, and it's kind of fun to watch how some of the products that I've seen used through the years are now starting to find their way home here this summer. Of course, LARLU, we're located in Winona, and just a quick brief history that I think is pertinent here is that LARLU was started by 2 school teachers, one by the name of Lars and the other one Lewis. So there you know how we came up with LARLU. And these school teachers wanted something to do during the summer months, and as a result, they started this company, and they focused on selling to cheerleaders, to teachers, and to coaches, because they knew that each of these areas within the school used products. Primarily, it was pennants, palms, and stadium cushions, and of course buttons. Those 4 product lines were the items that they started out selling, and this was in 1961. So through the years, they're still top-selling items for LARLU, and we've, again, grown to understand the market so much better over time. One other thing I wanted to point out, the web, the larlu.com, if any of you would like to get a market-specific brochure, and it's free of charge, it's on the website. We offer them for the education market. We also have them for several other markets, including financial and healthcare, small business, and trade show. But if you're looking for ideas for the education market specific, you'll find it on our website. And of course, here's contact information too. For any samples during my presentation that you would like, free of charge, we'd be happy to send them out for you. I see one note about we're muted. Yes, we are. You are muted, but as I see questions pop up on the screen, I'll try to answer them, or Paul can stop me and we can answer a couple questions before moving on. Okay? More contact information. Okay. You start to look at this market, it's not unlike many of the other markets, and that is there's certain tools that are necessary to be successful. And I pick these as important areas to consider. One, you need a very wide range of product price points. Secondly, need to ship quick. Surprised that, like corporate America, schools too plan at the last minute. So being able to deliver quickly, very, very important. And thirdly, as in the corporate industries, the product safety compliance. Can't stress enough about this area because, academia is always involved in reading on various subject matters, and not the least of which is product safety. And any supplier that you're working with, make sure that you're prepared when you're calling on the education market that if you're picking a product, that it's safe to use because you're likely to be asked about it. Best are those suppliers that even have their compliance information right online and allow the school to go directly in to see this information and get comfortable knowing that the products that you're bringing to them are safe. And, of course, as you bring these kinds of tools with you, you're helping build your relationship with the customer and build their confidence in you. So I think while it's important for schools, it's probably the same important area for all industries that you're calling on. Okay, to start things out, if you look at the education market, you might ask yourself, how big is it and why should I care? Well, if you looked at the 11% of the $20 billion industry, you'd have to say to yourself, that's a big piece of the pie, given that it's second only to the healthcare area. And when you start to build a successful book of business, one that's recession-proof, you need to have a little bit of business in different industries to give you that cushion when downturns occur. Or, I think more importantly, you might find that industries that you kind of force yourself to learn about and enter into can be fun and exciting. And oftentimes we can find ideas for one industry and bring them into another industry as well. So when you consider the spend that goes into the education market, it's certainly an area that I think you should take notice of. Not only that, but when you take a look at the number of dollars spent by corporations that are used within the education market, whether it's going to be a stadium giveaway or some item that's sent to the dorms or some way used on campuses or in schools, the spend has got to be huge, easily as big as healthcare, I would guess. Well, somebody said here, has the slideshow started? Obviously it has. I don't know if they're having a hard time getting onto the screen, but you should all see number one besides the education market.
I'm responding privately to her.
Okay, great. Point number two, the education market practitioners. Who does this encompass? Obviously, there's over 133,000 schools, but the main ones that we can all relate to in our everyday lives are the local schools, the pre-kindergarten, the elementary, the middle schools, the high schools, the colleges, the technical colleges. We've got business schools that are popping up all over. So when you start to look at this market, you start to divide into where you want to enter. Do you want to get into the private schools? And maybe it's because you've got a student that is in a private school, or you know somebody that's in a private school, or maybe you've served on board of directors in schools, but you start to find which school you'd like to enter into. In my experience, they're all good. I think more sales opportunities are at the high school level on up, and I would say colleges probably represent one of the largest areas for you to kind of focus in on. One thing I'd mention too you see these logos here. Some of them can be licensed. The Auburn one, University of Auburn. We'll talk a little bit about licensing towards the end of the presentation, but I'd suffice it to say that one way or another, you need to make sure that licensing is being considered and that sponsorships are being approved when you're working with co-branding a logo from the school and a logo corporate, making sure that while you might hear that it's okay to do this, be aware that at times companies think they can use a logo in conjunction with a college, but in actuality, there's licensing and sponsorships that exist. Why are schools attractive to advertisers? Interesting question that I wanted to kind of throw out here because I want to see if I can get you thinking from a little different angle, and that is when you look at why schools are attractive to advertisers from the outside, you could divide it into two main areas. You could say from a standpoint of hiring from schools, or you could say advertising to those in the schools and the families of those kids in schools. The school itself, if you look at it, is a very focused demographic. They're probably at the high school level within the 5-mile radius. At the college, of course, that would grow. At the high school level, those students are from local homeowners, and so you start to project out, well, if they're kids that are from the local area and their parents are homeowners, all of a sudden you start to put two and two together and you're saying, okay, well, the local homeowner is somebody I want to promote to, so how can I get to that local homeowner by using the school as the venue? And of course, future buyers of products and services start at a young age, and that's been proven over and over and over. So if you're a bank, let's say, and you're trying to get more credit card users, the local college might be a great place to focus on freshmen. And of course, because they're congregated at that school, it's easy for them to disseminate their message right there on campus. And I've seen that personally. As I mentioned earlier, I've got my wife and I have 3 kids in college, and I see the items that they're getting from like Wells Fargo Bank, for instance. The kids just came home for the summer because the semester is completed, and laundry was brought back in a Wells Fargo laundry bag. I see a number of straw bottles, drink bottles that they came back with, and of course they've got decals on the cars, and still looking for a couple of Larloo items that could be at these schools, but I haven't seen them yet. Maybe that'll change. But you start to see, from an advertising perspective, this is a captive audience that is very attractive to an advertiser. And maybe you've seen this before. Think of schools as a distribution point. By this, what I mean is that every promotional product has some kind of a distribution plan, whether it's something that a customer takes time to think it through, or it just happens, like they get a product and they give these out on sales calls, or they're at a trade show and they distribute the product at their booth. But when you think of a school, we all know that stadium giveaways are a big portion of pride and excitement at the stadium level. You can see the fans here that are waving their rally rags, or to the right with the palms. The stadium becomes a distribution point for an advertiser. And of course, the classroom is another distribution point. A good example of this might be DARE. As you might recall, the DARE program, which you don't see now, but you do see, I think it's called GREAT. The classroom becomes a distribution point for a public service message. And it was the second graders that were targeted for the DARE messaging, and I think it's a little bit older in the middle school years for the GREAT program. And the classroom is where the officers would come into the class and they would give their message to the students. So the distribution of their message is in the classroom. Or a third distribution point could be on campus, where I'll give you an example of student orientation at the college level. Well, at this time, they're being welcomed by a number of senior students, and each of them are there at the welcome area to have an opportunity to provide a message. Or in the case of our kids, they were given water bottles because it was in the middle of July that they moved in and it was hot. And again, it had a sponsor on the bottle as well as the Mankato State University logo on the bottle as well. So you start to see that, again, as a distribution point, this is very important. You know, from an elementary standpoint, the messaging seems to be more towards, you know, the students. It's either education-based or it's something to do with the community message. Whereas once you get to the high school level, the distribution point becomes more of interest for local advertisers, restaurants, insurance companies, banks, and so on that would like to have their local message distributed in a stadium. And of course, at the college level, you know, you've got all kinds of things happening here, from recruiting to introduction to credit cards, and a way to start building your credit and as a basis for building your financial future. The campus is a great opportunity for a bank or financial institution to start to reach those students. The types of products that are purchased by the schools, I'd like to think of this as, you know, an area that we can all come up with a million different items that could work. And I just collaged some of the items from our catalog because it was easy for me to grab these images. But as I mentioned earlier, really important to have a wide range of product prices, because at the elementary level, items are probably less expensive. They're more based on items that can either congratulate or encourage effort. At the high school level, you start to get a little bit of a higher range of products, and now you're starting to find items that could be used and distributed at games or to the seniors or to events going on by the student council. And by the time you get to the college level, the range of products can really increase. I mean, it could be an alumni gift, that could be a more expensive item for a certain donation, or it could be, you know, that $5 to $10 range where you've got all kinds of programs and corporate advertising that takes place. Or you can also have the lower range. You know, homecoming is a big program on campus at high school and college level, and low-cost buttons might be the way they get into a game or an event at school. So you really need to have that wide range of product price to distribute the message. Another factor here is that when you're trying to identify what would be a good product for a school, you try to look at the volume that it will take to convey the message. So for instance, if you had the case of like a button, inexpensive, this might be a message they want all over campus or all over the high school for homecoming. If it's the case of the spirit fingers here, it might be gymnastics, it could be obviously their cheerleading, and it would be lower quantities that are required for them to use. So you really want to consider how big of an area is going to be covered with your message and how many people would be receptive to the message. Okay, looking at the different levels of schools, the next three slides are going to talk about ideas for the elementary level, the high school level, and the college level. And when I started to look at the different price points and at each level, it was real clear to see that while The price points can range from low to high. I think for the most part, the elementary has a lower price point. The message is usually something to do with an educational message, and school pride, of course, is starting to be built. If you look at the erasers, for example, an interesting message that we did this past year came from a healthcare facility, and they were distributing a message at kindergartners, and the message was, save a brain, wear your helmet. And it was kind of a public service message that targeted all these kindergartners in the state of New York. And I thought it was a great idea to share with this group. Of course, we've all seen things like bookmarks that are very inexpensive. Maybe this is where the public library would donate these to the schools to get kids to read and encourage them to read and build skills. Once you get into things like coloring pennants and things that have play value, you could be looking at preschool or after-school programs. And a lot of schools now offer after-school care with two working parents in the family. Oftentimes the kids stay at school until 4:30 before the parents pick them up. And so they're always looking for things that can be educational-based or fun-based that they can provide for the kids. And of course, one of my favorite messages, remembering back when our kids were in, I think it was probably second or third grade, this magnet. Now this one says a schedule magnet, but the one I recall was a recycling magnet. And it was an educational program put on by our local school teaching kids about recycling and the benefits of recycling and how to identify if a product is recyclable. It got into all the types of plastics that are out there and paper and cardboard and how things are recycled and reused, and it was a great message. And this message went home on a magnet so that the parents could help the students understand more about recycling. So again, this message was more of an educational basis. You're looking at the flags and such for schools. A lot of the schools will have a flagpole. They'll have the United States flag at the top, and then their school flag at the bottom or below it. And generally speaking, the secondary flag should be smaller by at least one size than the United States flag. So, for instance, if their flag is 4 by 6, the school flag could either be 3 by 5 or 2 by 3. And oftentimes, they'll buy 6 flags at a time, and they'll use these on the flag poles, and they're available as few as one, but another opportunity that you might look into. And of course, one of the best sellers that we have, and I say Larlu, but it can be any button company, is that just in general, buttons are a big item at the high school level or the elementary level. And we're seeing a trend towards the smaller buttons, like 1-inch size, that they can put on their backpack, along with this item called the strap, which is another item. It goes around the strap of a backpack, and it's just branding and school pride at work. So this is the elementary level. The high school level offers probably more opportunity because there's just so many more programs that they're involved in. The messages seem to support more like the homecoming events or graduation events. And of course, one of the biggest growth areas, and it continues to be, I think, the backbone of the orders I see, which is fundraising, where they're looking for high value items that are able to be used by the students or by the parents, and that can be offset in cost with advertising. A great example there is that Vermilion Stadium cushion, and maybe some of you have sold these in the past or you've come across them. But when they use a stadium cushion and they sell ads on the back, the team is offsetting the cost of the cushion 100%. And then by using a vinyl banner, that helps promote the sale of the cushion. One idea there might be to use this at the football stadium and add the pricing so that student or family members, as they're entering the game, can buy their cushion. They would usually have a few of the players, assistants. They're selling them and encouraging parents to buy the cushion. I see personally that I can't say no, especially when other parents are buying their cushions or buying their products. Rally towels have been a huge success at the professional level and at the college level, but I got to tell you, I know many schools, high schools, that have stadiums that are absolutely sold out. I was down recently in Newton, Iowa, and they don't have a pro team. So their high school teams they get a lot of interest. Their local high school games are sold out in Newton, Iowa, and they have 3,500 attending every single high school game. And they've introduced a towel at their high school level. And I think other levels can have their own terrible towel, like you might see for the Pittsburgh Steelers, or the Titletown towel that was introduced by the Green Bay Packers, to create fan excitement and to provide something that an advertiser would be interested in putting a message on, so that get it into the hands of the homeowners. Palms are, of course, a great idea for schools, especially stadium. When you're selling a palm and you're connecting the dots to this presentation, I would say that the school is going to be the distribution point. The advertiser is going to be a local business. Usually it's going to be either a restaurant, or it's going to be like an insurance company or agent that wants to have their name promoted to local homeowners, because the demographics of who's attending this stadium are very clear, and it's usually the parents and the homeowners in the local area. And so it's a great opportunity for banks, credit unions, insurance, real estate, dry cleaners, and small companies that want to advertise locally and want to advertise particularly to families. You look into things like school pride, decals and parking stickers and permits and so on, is more of a utility item almost for the schools at this point. For sure, the parking permits are. And so asking in the office where they get these items could be an opportunity for you to sell just from the standpoint of internal use. Lanyards, I've seen them used for visitors. I've seen them used by the kids in the student council. They sell them in their bookstore, and kids put their car keys on them, and it becomes a lanyard/key ring. And this is a great fundraiser because, lanyards can run anywhere in the range of, $2 to $4, and they're easily selling for $5 to $7.50 and more in the school. So they've got an item here that has a great value to the advertiser or to the school and for fundraising. And a couple other items that I wanted to point out. Waste baskets, a great fundraising item. Seeing these sold by cheerleaders and dance, which seems to be an emerging area of these high schools, these dance teams. It's really a big deal, and they all take trips, and those trips are usually covered by their own fundraising activities. So it's something that you definitely want to ask around about fundraising, but you almost need to go from team to team to find out what their goals are, and you'll find some really nice orders when it comes to fundraising. And of course, you look at things like buttons. Homecoming buttons are a must-have item. That too, rather than giving these out for free, they can use these to sell them. And you talk about a great return. If they sold, 2,000 buttons or however many kids they have in the high school, and they're paying, 25, 30 cents for them, they've got a great fundraising opportunity here on this type of an item. And of course, other items, magnets for schedules, and all of these items are great to put advertising on. Okay, at the college level, there's a couple of things going on here, and that is that businesses will view colleges for two main areas. Number one, they're looking at them as future, the students as future customers. But number two, they're looking at the colleges as future talent to join their company. And so if you broke down the needs of a business, you would find that obviously they need to grow their business through more customers or selling more to existing customers. Well, finding the colleges and using them as a way to build their business and and create new customers is their first goal. The second goal is looking for talent. And if you look at something like a table cover, I could see that at a job fair, a company would have a table cover that would include maybe the college that they're recruiting from, as well as something about their own company to create an atmosphere that's fun. And if you don't believe that this is happening every day, I'm here to say that I've seen firsthand two of our three kids that are in internships now have both gotten these internships through recruiting fairs at the campus, where you've got a number of companies that set up a display and they have products that they're giving out to these students, as well as getting applications and resumes from the students. So it's a great opportunity from a standpoint of getting talent. Also, from an advertising standpoint, you look at the local companies that want to advertise, and the college offers a great opportunity because, number one, they've got stadiums that are usually packed on the weekends and for games, which provides a great opportunity for them to deliver their message. Oftentimes it's a rally towel or it's a palm. They've also got incoming freshmen coming every year, and freshman orientation is an event. It's not just another day, but it's an event. It's an opportunity for local businesses to try to attract students to be customers, whether it's a restaurant or a bank or a pharmacy or you name it. This is their opportunity to get freshmen coming to them right away. And so oftentimes they'll provide an item that they give to the volunteer seniors that are working the freshman orientation, and they'll distribute the product to the freshmen. The drinkware is an ideal item because it's usually hot summer months that they're distributing it, and they'll carry this throughout the year in their backpacks. You look at alumni opportunities, which colleges have deans, and the deans are one of their primary responsibilities is fundraising. And so the alumni themselves become the major or the number one pool from which they're doing their fundraising. So items that can be used to show school pride or to send out to alums as a way to say thank you for your donation, but to keep them in the fold and on the team, giving out items like license plate frames or at a little higher level clocks, because they're highly visible items and they're valued for a long time to come. And the school wants the alumni to feel part of the team long term.
Joe,
more events that take place, colleges for doing golf tournaments, and these golf tournaments are either to raise scholarships that they can give out to students. Sometimes the scholarship is very specific. It might be like a nursing scholarship or a specific industry scholarship that the event is targeting. And so at these types of events, they're using golf towels or they're giving out cooling towels as a way to help thank this or to thank, the participants, but also to have their message out, because the following year it starts all over again and they want that message to be out in the marketplace. Of course,
Joe,
the students, yes.
In your earlier case history about POMs, we have a question in the chat box about picking up the cost of the POM. He asked, did the insurance agent pick up the whole cost?
Yes, they would pick up the cost of the POM. You can have more than one advertiser on a POM. You've got two sides of the handle, and I've seen many cases where I've seen more than one advertiser on a POM handle.
Great. That's the only question at the moment.
Okay. Thanks, Paul.
Yep.
If you look at the college marketplace, it almost resembles the corporate marketplace, because of the nature that these students are adults. And so you're marketing to adults. So keep that in mind when you're trying to pick out items that can be used by young adults, the cooling towels or lanyards, of course, key rings. I've seen those drawstring backpacks, items such as, any kind of drinkware is very popular, as well as things for like laundry bags and so on that students can use every day. Of course, the parking permits and low-end items are also important as well. And of course, probably our number one item for schools is pennants. Whether it's tipped with a pennant or a coupon or it's given out to freshmen on orientation, pennants embody the whole college experience. And this is one of the items that I think is key towards building an alumni family that feels connected with the college or university. So who are the buyers at the educational levels? And I kind of broke it down to some of the core buyers, and I think you'll find asking for referrals is the best way to go about finding out who the decision maker is. But certainly at the elementary level, the principal, and I'd say the PTA organizations. And I know my wife was involved in PTA and when the kids were young, and this area was just a huge benefit and help to the elementary schools because it's parents that are taking the lead in generating programs that benefit the kids. And so they're the ones that are making decisions on the products that are used to distribute their messaging. Of course, once you get into the high school level, you've got principals, of course, but coaches, I think, is a big part. And LARLU started, as I mentioned earlier, marketing to coaches and teachers and cheerleaders. And so the coaches today still, if they want to raise funds for new equipment, new jerseys, whatever the case may be, travel, oftentimes it's the coach that takes this responsibility on themselves, and they can be a valuable person for you to contact. And of course, once you get to the college level, I think now you're talking about more administrations. And if you just Google anything on a college or university that you're going to be focusing on, go onto their website, you'll find the names of the deans, the assistant deans, the alumni assistants, and you'll find a number of buyers on their websites. They really don't try to even hide it. I mean, they want you to, go to their website and find out who's involved in certain areas of the school so that you contact the correct person. Of course, in our case, we're contacting them because we want to help them market, or we want them to hook up with a local business, and the school becomes the distribution point for that message. So you kind of build that partnership between school and business, and you want to be talking with the right people to make this connection work. And of course, at the sponsor level, that's your businesses. I mean, those are the local companies that want to promote a message or convey a message through the school, and so they're working with the university or the high school or even the elementary school to distribute their message. Oftentimes, what I've seen, if you go to a stadium, just look around at the logos, and that will give you a good idea of who is already tied in with the school. Not that there can't be more, but it's a good place to start. And of course, from a business standpoint, you want to find out if they're looking to sell their products to the students or the school, or if they're looking to find talent. And I think there's two very distinct areas, and I think when you're working with them and helping them build their market plans, knowing what their goal is very important. And like with any customer, the creativity is really the key. When I say creativity, we don't have to recreate the wheel necessarily, but certainly virtual proofs are almost mandatory. Think of a PTA group, and they're going to have a meeting they need to have some kind of a visual that they can share with the committee. Or if it's something to do with helping them sell a fundraiser, this vinyl banner that shows the stadium cushion on the banner positioned at the gate, the admittance gate for an event, is a great idea that you provide the school as a way to help them sell those cushions. Another idea is that when you're talking to the coach and they're going to do a fundraiser, you have the information to help them build this fundraiser, and one of the ideas behind it is that the kids are the ones that will sell these ads. Don't put yourself in a position where you feel you have to sell the ad for the cushions, because you'll spend a ton of time on something that really is not your responsibility. But teaching the kids, many of whom have parents that have local businesses and they want to help with this fundraiser or need to help with the fundraiser, they divide up the back of the cushion and they say, okay, if we're trying to develop or to raise $5,000 worth of funds, we need to figure out mathematically how much these ads go for, along with what we're going to get when we sell the cushions to the attendees. So it's just kind of helping them lay out their math so that they get the desired results they're looking for. Another idea would be to help with the promotion of a product is to tip in a coupon. Another great idea that you bring to the table. You know, in this case, the college, maybe they're using the pennant to give out to the new students, but as a way to offset this cost of the pennant, and not only that, but to help a local business that wants to advertise to the students, they tip in this coupon. And so when the students come to the school for orientation, they're given this pennant with a coupon that helps drive traffic back to this, looks like a Dairy Queen, or whatever the advertiser might be, and it helps the school because now they have a way to help offset some of the cost of these pennants. And of course, that same idea can be used on these cushions. So bringing ideas for how to lay out a program for the school is very important. A lot of times I'm asked questions about tailgating events and how they can sell to tailgating events. And I say a couple things. One, unless it's like a season ticket holder as a buying group, I haven't seen where the tailgating events amount to much in our business to sell to. Mostly, this is retail merchandise that is used by companies or individuals to tailgate. I will suggest to you that our wingcraft.com website is a licensed manufacturer of college and pro, for that matter, merchandise that's licensed and can be sold at retail. And if you have a client that you're working with and they want to do a tailgating event and they're asking you for product using their college logo, I would invite you to go to wingcraft.com and find merchandise that you can buy at a distributor price and sell it at a reseller's price. Lots of items there. I mean, and items that a lot of we don't even offer. This Kegacue here or this chair here are items that we don't do, but they're important parts of tailgating, and certainly in the retail marketplace, these are good sellers. And of course, point number 10 out of 10 is, reasons to begin selling to the education market. It's a growing market for promotional products. That doesn't change. Every year, a new group of students and a new class is entering into the school, so it's a renewable resource. And it's semi-recession proof. We've seen that through the years when the economy has turned down, education actually turns up. Enrollment increases, new skills are being learned, there's job fairs everywhere going on, so there's actually more opportunity in tougher times. And then schools are in your local area, and if you dip your toe into the education market and you find success at one school, you're going to find other schools in the area that you can immediately call on and have some information that you have used with one school absolutely being used by another school. it's not like they're competing with each other. They both want the same results in most instances, and your experiences will help them. And of course, find the proven sellers. These are products that you're already selling today. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You know the items that are being sold and the services that are required to make it a successful promotion. Finally, I wanted to make a comment, and kind of a cautionary comment about licensing in general, and that is, while most of the schools own their own licensing, I've seen many cases where the logo is out of date, even though you're getting it from the school itself. That can be out of date. I've seen cases where a sponsor that wants to be a co-branding with the school doesn't have the rights, and that somebody else in that space of business owns it. And so one way or the other, my advice is that licensing needs to be addressed and sponsors do need to be confirmed. You know, there are companies, we're one of them, that's licensed for many of the schools and all the colleges, and we can help you with the licensing. So if there's other companies you're working with, one way or the other, you need to find out that you're doing things the right way for your advertiser, or that the school is using the most up-to-the-date graphics. And I think that's something that you can, again, bring to the table. And so with that, I'll field questions on anything that you might have. It says, I have an opportunity to see a Big Ten university. Problem is the licensing fees and royalties insurance. Joining fair labor make a very expensive proposition, not knowing if we would get them one sale. How do you go about this? Okay, so they're asking about the licensing and royalties and so on. CLC obviously is one body that governs licensing, and you could get a one-off opportunity to do a promotion using a sponsor. Another area would be the school itself. They might have existing sponsor agreements in place that allows for the university to use a certain sponsor logo with their logo, and they'll have the authority to approve this themselves. I don't really recommend getting into the licensing unless you're doing it in a real big way. There's upfront costs. Our company obviously has got a 54-year history in the licensing business, so I think it's just a matter of finding companies that have already got these agreements in place. And if there's ever concern about whether royalties apply or not, usually either the school knows or the sponsor knows what their agreement, how it reads. If you're using a company like Windcraft or Larlu, we too know what the agreements, how they're constructed, and can give you some advice and some guidance on what needs to be done. And I've seen many cases where the university thinks that they can waive the royalties, but their agreement states otherwise. And it just has to do with the person you're dealing with there, whether or not they know what their agreement, how it reads. I think if you can get a letter from a school, that's always best. Generally, it might say that we will be responsible for all applicable royalties if they pertain to this promotion. Derek Jacques says it's just their logo. If it's just their logo, it's then a question of what it's going on and how it's being used and distributed. You know, if it's being retailed or if it's being used as a promotional giveaway. Is it in stadium? Is it out of stadium? I think that question, there's probably some more questions that need to be asked, and I would invite you to contact me, separately, and I can maybe help you with this question. And they want us to send one finished product beforehand. How do you handle that? Well, that's a good question for any promotional program that is being done. When we receive the artwork at that time, we're going to send it to our licensing department for an opinion and approval before we can even print it. My suggestion is that you can do a virtual proof and a random sample so they can see physically how the product looks and feels and if it's going to work for them. But then the artwork is a totally different matter, and that can be done virtually. Doing it this way will save you a lot of time. And while this is being done, the company can also be working on any kind of licensing questions or concerns that might come up. So we can help you with that, and I'm sure other companies can as well.
Thank you very much, Joe, and thank you everyone for attending today's Wild Wednesday webinar. Appreciate Joe's insights on this huge potential market. Also keep in mind that schools today are also more reluctant to be selling what might be considered junk food, which used to be a major fundraiser. So promotional products offer a great opportunity to help schools with fundraising, which is pretty much a major issue for schools around the country right now. I'd like to thank Apothecary Products for sponsoring these webinars. They can be found at apiline.com. Also would like to invite you to join us next month on June 25th. Joel Schaefer. We seem to have a run of Joes and Joels going on here. Joel Schaefer will be our presenter on June 25 for a Wild Wednesday webinar on Christmas in July. He'll be talking about how you can get ready to maximize your fourth quarter sales right now and the things that you can be putting in place. Also, those of you in the Michigan area, we have a big trade show coming up August 20 and 21st. Full product safety awareness training on the 20th and the Ideas in Bloom show on the 21st. Details can be found at NIPA.org. And our friends in Ohio have their Put-in Bay show coming up on September 3 and 4 in beautiful Put-in Bay in Lake Erie. You'll find more information at opagroup.com. So once again, thank you for attending. If you will fill in your PIN number on the survey that follows this, I'll make sure that you get CAS credits for today. And also, this has been recorded, and recording will be available and be posted up on NIPA's website as well as NIPA's Facebook page as soon as it's rendered. Thank you very much. Thanks, Joe, and look forward to seeing all of you next month on another Wild Wednesday webinar.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, everybody.